We've got a very special guest, and I love this guy. He is a Knoxville product, former Vol, and he's looking young and fit and just fantastic. Craig Cobb, former Diamond Vol, former Tennessee baseball player, pitcher. Craig Cobb, how are you, sir?
Doing well. How are you, Dave?
I'm well. This baseball team's pretty good.
Yep, just run-of-the-mill Tony Vitello team. So leading the nation in homers and best staff in the country. So, ho-hum. Another year.
That's absolutely right. Did you ever think that Tennessee baseball would be this, national champions? Or let me ask it this way. When did you start to think that this program could win a national championship and be dominant?
Probably coming out of COVID. They just stack so much talent, and they seem to play just a different type of baseball. He's just recruited and developed so many different guys that this, winning a College World Series is probably the hardest out of all the college championships. You can run into a mid-major with an ace that sets you down in game one of regional. You're really not getting that in the other sports. So I think he's just done a fantastic job, him and his entire staff, on recruiting, culture, and then coaching the guys up when they get here. Everyone seems to come in here and improve. So it's a great staff. They've set a great culture. So winning doesn't really surprise me.
So Craig, I want to talk a little bit about, because the news obviously of the day is Alberto Osuna writing that letter to the NCAA. I'm just going to read the first paragraph real quick, and then I want to get your thoughts on the whole situation. But Alberto Osuna wrote and for those who don't know, he has been denied an eligibility waiver to play for Tennessee after transferring to Tennessee. And his quote was, or his first paragraph was, "Dear NCAA, I have many unanswered questions and I need your help. After the blanket waiver and a conversation with you, I uprooted my life and moved to another city with the expectation that I could continue to play the game that I love. It was an amazing opportunity to have the chance to come play for Coach Vitello and the defending national champions, but I also came here for the NIL potential that didn't exist in Tampa, and to be able to help my family and I financially, to help my father who underwent back surgery and hasn't been able to get back to 100% since." And basically then goes on to say how the NCAA was inconsistent with him. What are your thoughts on the letter he wrote to the NCAA yesterday?
I think that he's, I think based on the Pavia situation over in Vanderbilt, it seems like they've got a good argument. Luckily, they don't, him playing would obviously, he's got good stats and he's got a good track record. So, that would obviously help, but it would almost be a luxury at this point. So, they don't really have the season riding on him. It would be it would definitely be a big addition if this was to get approved. Me, I'm not a huge fan of the NIL. I'm definitely old man screaming on my front porch there. But it's I think the Pavia situation is just a big Pandora's box, especially when it goes down to college baseball. I just think with JUCO being so prevalent and D2, D3, if baseball guys are, if you can go recruit a 21-year-old kid out of Walter State and he's got 4 years to play, why would you go recruit a high school kid, right? So I think it could have big time trickle down effects in baseball more than anything. But I hope it seems like he should have a case based on the Pavia ruling. I don't see much of a difference, and it sounds like that's what they're pointing to as well.
Okay, would you have been an NIL fan when you played and you put a little cash in your back pocket?
My NIL would have probably been McGriddles from McDonald's. That or Firehouse.
Did you get grilled? I could. You being a local guy, you'd rake it in. Good-looking guy like yourself.
Yeah, my diet wasn't great back then, so my pregame McGriddles, would probably been in my height of my NIL earning opportunities there.
Was that your pregame meal, a McGriddle? Seriously?
If I had a Sunday start, yeah.
That is so awful for you. I hope you're eating better now. I want to bring in a comment from the message board. Frank Anderson is one of the best pitching coaches. I think of a pitcher as almost kind of on their own. But what does a pitching coach bring to the table in general? What do you think Anderson brings to the table?
Oh, man. He's fantastic. Man, they can bring so much to the table. One, just confidence. I mean, they can instill a different mentality, and that's huge for pitchers. Obviously, the way that he is, their philosophy, they throw a ton of strikes. That is not the case, the 10 years prior to that. But I mean, it's not just one or two guys. They bring in, they just don't walk anybody as a staff, and they haven't for the past 8 years. And so their game plans are good. They can clearly develop, velocity and develop secondary pitches, and they can throw them all for strikes. I mean, you just don't have to look too much farther based on the amount of guys they strike out versus how many walks and hits they give up. Not a bunch of guys like me giving up just a crap ton of hits and hoping you get a flat or a double play. I mean, they're just pounding the zone with high velocity and quality stuff. And I mean, it's the first guy on Friday night, obviously Doyle is putting up ridiculous numbers to, the 7th or 8th guy to the bullpen. It's crazy the amount of arms they have stockpiled. And I think that's all with Coach Anderson's development, and obviously the weight room. They're doing some stuff right there too.
Hey, Caleb, I want you to jump in here, but David said Craig could get a Pals NIL. That's not bad. Yeah.
Man. Yeah. Bring Pals to Knoxville, please.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be shooting for a Regas or a Club Lacan or something like that. David says, Craig, will Liam Doyle be the best pitcher in the country this year? Because I think so.
I mean, if he keeps it up, I mean, you can't argue. I think he's punching out 2/3 of the people that just step to the plate against him so far. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's mid-major guys or whoever it is. That's a silly number. I've seen him pitch in person a couple times, and I mean, guys are just taking awful swings against him. So I mean, he's throwing hard. It's got some funk to it, and he's got some really good secondary stuff. And again, just like everyone else, he's just absolutely pounding the zone with that with his stuff there. And it's hard to square up. It's hard to hit in general. So I'm excited to see him go against Florida Friday night. But I mean, he did great down there in Houston as well against against Power 4 teams. So he's done fantastic, and he had walk problems, down at Ole Miss, and he comes here and he doesn't, in year one. So again, I think that's another feather in Anderson's cap, and just more proof of, man, he can coach guys up and coach them up quick. So it's impressive.
Craig, I want to move to the lineup for a minute, but I just have to ask you this, though, because we're talking about how deep Tennessee's pitching rotation is. They just had a no-hitter on Friday where I think they used 5 pitchers. You just became the old guy talking about how you're not a fan of NIL. How does the old guy who, as a freshman, led the team in complete games feel just about the principle of using 5 pitchers in a no-hitter?
Man, times have changed. Our staffs were not as deep, obviously, as they are now, but I mean, it was just a different philosophy back in, 20 years ago.
It wasn't that long.
Yeah,
it was. 2004 was his freshman year.
Yeah, like a whole.
Oh my gosh, how did that happen?
A whole drinky person. Yeah, so it was just so different back then. I mean, you're not coming out if you're giving up 4 runs and you're at 100 pitches in the 7th. It's like, man, you're going to fish the 7th and run back out for the 8th. But now, and early on, I know they're trying to build guys up and not blow them out, going 8 innings in tune-up for SEC. But yeah, I mean, they're loaded. I hate it. I love seeing starters go deeper in games, but I mean, that's just not really what we do now in baseball. And when you've got the stable of arms behind them, I mean, bringing another guy throwing 98 coming in with a different look. So times have changed, and they've got the ability to mix and match with tons of guys. So go for it. It's fun to watch.
We'll hear about in April, a guy in the major leagues will go 7 innings and he'll have a no-hitter, and then they'll pull him anyway. It's just like it's almost like it's not even an expected or respected feat anymore, which is a shame. How many no-hitters did you throw going back to high school?
I don't know if I ever threw one. I threw a bunch of one-hitters, but I don't know if I ever got a bunch of no-hitters.
Let me
guys are putting the ball in play against me, so
That's right.
Reducing my risk.
Well, let's go to David. Who's the best freshman on the team? Clark, Bargo, Abernathy, or Coons?
Oh man, Levi Clark is he's a monster. What he's done so far is has been incredibly impressive. Just seeing him at the field, I mean, even from the stands, man, he's a big kid, and he's got a ton of power. Was highly recruited, I think, based on just performance at this point. I mean, it's got to be him, right? But I mean, you've got those guys. You've got Manny Marin, who's starting at third base as a freshman, who's done well. I think Stone Lawless is a redshirt freshman. I mean, they just have a ton of guys that are here and are young and that they can throw in and not have to rely on a bunch of fifth-year seniors. So I think the future is bright. Those guys will be here for a couple of years, and they'll just keep reloading.
Craig, we've talked a lot about the pitching. Tennessee right now heading into SEC play leads the nation in ERA and runs per game. Funny enough, which is insane. And we're talking about the pitching, but they also set a record for 3 grand slams in a game last week. 2 grand slams in an inning, which I've never heard of in my life. 2 grand slams in an inning. Going into SEC play, what's the stronger unit between the pitching and the lineup, and which one is going to reveal its strength, shall we say, more in SEC play, or be more important?
I think over the course of 30 games against that competition, I think they'll kind of go back and forth. I mean, it just really depends on who's pitching that day, and for us, if they're on, for the other team if they're on or not. But I mean, it's a good problem to have when both of your your offense and your pitching staff are leading the nation in a majority of the important categories there. So but the SEC is loaded. What do they have? Half of the top 25 teams at this point, and most of the top 10 or top 15. So ton of talent. Always has been a ton of talent, but they've also been able to manage a 25-5 run in SEC play a couple years ago. They'll lose some games, but I mean, man, if you can get to 20 wins in this conference, you're a really, really good team. So they just need to take care of business and do what they've been doing the last several years, and they should be there near the top.
Craig, Ben Joyce said he thinks that he can throw 107. I don't know if you saw that quote. Wow. Do you think he can do that?
Sure. He's a former Farragut Admiral too. So
there you go.
Actually,
no, I mean, that guy's a freak. The way they train nowadays, I'm sure he could make a tweak or two, or get a little bit stronger. But I mean, man, he's had a phenomenal start to his career, and it's fun seeing him show up on all the pitching ninja videos and whatnot. So he's got a special arm. He's a special talent. So it's been fun to see.
What'd you think, Craig, of just talking general baseball now, because we're talking about 107-mile-an-hour fastballs, but what did you think of Barry Bonds saying in an interview the other day that he could still hit 100-mile-an-hour fastball at age 60? Do you think that's possible? Is it possible for a 60-year-old not juicing to do that?
I'd pay to see it. Man, that guy was steroids or not, that guy was incredible. I still think he should be in the Hall of Fame. That guy was unbelievable. But yeah, he was he had such fast hands. Maybe he could. Who knows?
You were known obviously for your pitching, but I'm curious, when you stepped in the batter's box, what was the fastest pitch you ever had to face? Do you remember that? I mean, because goodness gracious, to me, like I think I would rather just cower in fear in the dugout as opposed to face 105.5 or 107.
I mean, probably 88 or 90. I've stopped hitting so long ago. I think I stopped hitting my sophomore year in high school for the most part. So one of the original POs, pitcher only sort of guys in high school. We were loaded back then, so they didn't really need me. But yeah, probably 88 is my guess, 88, 90. And that looked like, just an absolute missile back in those days. So I can't imagine stepping in there against, Doyle sitting, 98 that's moving all over the place. That'd be horrifying.
Well, yeah, and it's exponentially faster. I don't think people understand that. It's not like, oh, that was just a mile per hour faster. When you get that high, that ball feels different, looks different.
Oh yeah, I mean and just the way it's moving too can make it seem even harder. It looks like his ball comes in and like darts off at the end. So I mean, it's getting on you quick and then it's disappearing. It's just crazy the velocity guys have nowadays. Hochaver threw the hardest that we had, and he'd occasionally touch 96, but he kind of lived more 93, 94. A lot of heavy sink, and I mean, most of the guys they're rolling out of the bullpen in midweek or sitting there 90, 94, 96. And that was kind of SEC wide in general. I mean, most guys kind of lived in that 91, 92 range, and I mean that's nothing these days. It's just the training and the talent and just physicality these guys have nowadays is just so much different. It's maybe I would have hit 86, with these days with this training. So
absolutely insane. Craig, we certainly appreciate it, and maybe we can have you on again, talk a little baseball. It has been something to behold what Tony Vitello has done during his tenure at Tennessee.
Yeah, anytime. It's fun getting out there. It's fun taking my son out there now. He turned 6 on Thursday, so he's gotten into it last year pretty big. So
wait, when's his birthday?
Thursday.
What day is that? March
13th.
Hey, that's my birthday.
Hey, there you go. It's a great day.
There you go. That's fantastic. Maybe we'll all get together and party. Craig, good. I appreciate it. Happy birthday to your son. Telling me he has a heck of a birthday, and he's a Pisces, so I'm sure he loves being around the water. Maybe you guys can go to an indoor pool or something.
Sounds good, man.